Mr. Steve Aoki, we're on.
Hey, what's up?
Now.
Let's dive straight into the music because you've just given us the first taste of your next album with Cult, with Grandson
Yep.
featuring Josiah. Amazing. So you talk about that this one's a mixture of the old sound with your new influences. What are you vibing with? What's the new influences?
Um, well, I mean, I always like to mix it up. Like every time I do any sort of collab offerings, it's always something that people wouldn't normally expect. So, and stuff that you would expect. Like I have like records that are like perfect. They're like meant for festivals, especially now since it's all coming back. That's what like my core is, like making big room EDM festival music. So
Oh yeah.
I'm always gonna have that in my sets. But for me, as an artist and a producer, I'm always like thinking about how to go into different genres, whether it's Latin or K-pop. And now, working with a country artist on the album, which I'm really excited about, American country. Um, Kane Brown. That's like a new kind of like what does like Aoki EDM and like modern country sound like together? Well, you're definitely gonna get that on the album, and then going into rock, going to alternative, pretty heavy with a few songs, and starting it off with Cult, like which I think is I call it the anchor of the album for sure. It's got like all the energy and the chaos, but it's extremely catchy, and it's got a like this heavy electronic drop, but it's got guitars and bass and like live instruments and like rock vocals, so it's a lot of fun.
This sounds so eclectic. This album's gonna be bonkers by the sounds of it.
Yeah, no, I'm still like, I have I made a ton of music during COVID.
Hmm.
So it's like a whole, like this album took shape and took form into something that I didn't expect. Um which is why I still have the Neon Future brand, which is what I've made 4 albums under Neon Future, and I really got really deep into this, working with scientists and like going into this narrative of where we're going in the future, turning into robots, stuff like that. And now this is a whole new world. This album is part of a brand new world, and I think what's going to happen, I don't want to give away too much, is that this, whenever I think about an album, I think about a world, and I think about like what it looks like, not just what it sounds like. Like Neon Future, I made a comic book, and then I made an NFT project, and then I made all this, all the stuff around that outside of just the musical albums, and like it's like a philosophy. And this one, it's the same kind of it's like a same kind of like story, like not different kind of storyline, but same philosophy. So you have like, it has its own world, it'll have its own characters, it'll have like there's going to be a lot more than just the music, but the
That's
music
what
is
I love about you.
first,
You're a
like,
full visionary.
yeah,
Yeah.
I really look at the worlds like, this is what the world sounds like, and there's going to be, just like, when you grow up and you like watch Dragon Ball, grow up and you watch Pokemon, and you grow up and watch these kinds of like you like step into their world, like Disneyland, for example. Like it's just like you step into that world, and that's how I look at everything now. Like what if I can't step into the world, it's not as exciting. And I love building worlds, and it's so this, like, I actually haven't even talked about this in interviews yet, about like what this new album, I haven't even mentioned the name of the album yet, because
I
it's like,
know.
yeah, once I say the name of the album, it's like creating a whole new Disneyland. That's the point of this album. So there's just a lot going on.
God, to live a day in your head. Wild. Okay, so Grandson has said that cult is about what happens when you have an imaginary world that becomes more attractive than the real world. Tell me about Aoki-verse then. Is that a part of this world you're creating? Does that play
Yeah,
off the back of this album?
yeah, that's definitely, so Aoki-verse is a membership community NFT space, and it's basically having access to my whole social network in NFTs, in the metaverse, and what we're going to be doing in that world, because I'm so deep in the NFT space. And obviously what I'm doing in the real world. I want to give people access to, like, like I gave 2 people access to my session that I worked with Snoop Dogg, and we made some like crazy music that's like, and Snoop is heavy in the NFT space too. So what we're going to be doing is like really forward thinking, and having that kind of access into like what we're doing, because we're just like, we talk openly in front of everyone, kind of like we didn't even get these guys NDAs. Like, sometimes I feel giving of information with what's to come too early, right? But yeah, so yeah, Aoki-verse is a combination of like the metaverse, the real world, it's all about trust. Like, you trust where I'm going, you sign up, you jump into the Aoki-verse, and you just get like offerings and rewards and drops, and you go along for the ride. And this album and this world I'm creating for this album is gonna obviously gonna be first introduced into the Aoki-verse as an NFT space, as an NFT project. So it's very much all interlinked.
Wow. That's crazy. You are quite a futurist. Do you feel like Web3 has changed the way that you interact with the physical world around you? Are you constantly thinking about that space while you're in this space?
Yes, because the one thing I always explain to people about the difference between Web2 and Web3, it's basically ownership. That's a major difference between the two worlds, is that in Web2, how we live, how we've existed and communicated through the phones and social media, is that we already have accepted that all the information is not owned by us. Like, we go in and we read the fine line. We don't read the fine line. We scroll through and we just hit accept quickly so we can jump on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, whatever it is, and then go, yeah, well, it's like just how it is. Mark Zuckerberg owns all our data, how life is. And Web3 is like, it doesn't have to be like that, guys. Like, you will, like, now you connect your wallet, you own your data, you go in with your data, and you leave with your data. You leave with like your identity. You own your identity. So I think when people start to see it like that, then understanding like, what do you choose? Do you want to own your data, or do you want someone else to own your data? It's clear everyone's going to be jumping in Web3. And I think like, give it like not even a year, and we'll like talk, like if we talk next year, give it like a year, and then like it'll be like very just much more normal for people to participate in the NFT space in a way where they identify with NFTs and communicate through NFTs.
Surely you can see the immediate impacts on the music industry as well, with that sort of ownership and bringing back, having artists release NFTs with their new music. Do you feel like it's impacting the music industry?
Yes, it's impacting the music industry with the artists that are like going into the space, because it's the music NFT space is like the next frontier, like NFT space frontier that people are finally like, there's attention, there's people in it, but it's not a ton of people. It's crypto people in it, right? The next wave is the music side of what that looks like, you know? So I think a lot of artists, I mean, I've seen it already. DJs, out of all the musicians and artists, you know, because I'm like really in the middle of it. So I kind of like, I see the landscape of like who is like jumping in the NFT space from the music side. And DJs are, I say, like the most prominent out of all the industry, out of like
Yeah.
rock, hip hop artists. And like actually quite a lot of hip hop artists are utilizing NFT discourse and space and the way they communicate. Yeah, I think like hip hop and DJs are like and electronic music are like the two like probably leading innovative you know, parts of the music world coming into NFTs, and how it's going to look like when we drop NFTs. It's clearly about one, turning music into what it has always been, art. Music is clearly art.
Yeah. It's a nice intersection. Would you consider yourself competitive?
Yes, extremely, highly, and optimally. I actually like it's like I'm a very like I chase for optimal output.
Yeah.
I chase for like optimal life experience. You know, like how do I maximize my experiential part of like, you know, all these different things I'm doing. How do I maximize my optimal performance, and that's where like the competition is really, it really helps you innovate. You know, it really helps you seek the best part of you. And I'm not like necessarily competitive against other people per se. I'm like competitive like within myself, you know, at the very least. Like I want to always do better, you know, like, you know, I'm like really into reading right now.
Yeah,
And I
okay.
like, you know, 40 pages a day, at least. I try to do that.
Wow.
Because I devour like a book in a week. I want to do it like I want to do 60. But I need to figure out how to read faster. How do you read past your mind, like your inner voice? You know, like when you read a book, you're reading like your inner voice like limits your speed. So if you break that, then you could actually like get all retention of that page down in less time. And that means that you could devour more quickly. And, you know, like I have a friend that could devour a book and get all the retention out of that book in one book a day.
Wow.
So he's reading like, you know, like I usually read with my finger. So you read like this, like
Hmm. But he
he reads,
captures the paragraph almost.
he goes like this, like boom, 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 boom,
Right.
boom, you know, like he's just devouring information, you know. Sorry, I'm just like digressing a bit, but
No, I don't know if you would relate to this, but I'm someone who's afraid that I won't die content. Do you feel like it might be you? Like on in your final days, you'll be like, there was so much more that I could have done, even though you've had one of the most successful careers across so many different spheres.
I believe that I'm like I only have 40 years technically of my life left. Like if I go by the average age expectancy, that's I'm halfway there. This is like awful information for me to like find out like I only have half. I have 50% bar in my you know like my running in my game, and I'm like 50% left.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It like I've like just learned like 1% of the world. Like in my maybe 0.1%. You know, there's so much more that I could do in this life. I need at least 300-400 years minimum. Like I need more than that. You know, I just it's just like it's sad when you go, okay, because I also read this book called uh what's it called? Basically the book is talks about how, you know, like basically what we're talking about, like how you need to know how many more years you have left, kind of by and then you realize that there's so much more for you to do in your life and so much to learn. So yeah, I'm like I mean, I really hope that we get to this point before the next 40 years where we'll be able to, you know, I kind of believe it. I'm very optimistic. Well, we'll get to a point where we could upload our consciousness, and then this idea of aging is like is something you can actually cure, or this idea of death is something you can cure, you know. And then it's like, then we have to figure out, like, what does the world look like when people just don't die, you know. I have a feeling like I'm also a big sci-fi nut, but
I can gather that. Yeah.
but I'm also really big into like the world. I'm like in this world where there's sci-fi and then there's science fact, right? And there's certain things that cross over to science fact. Like those things that cross over, I'm like really excited about, and I want to like hear about them and like find out what's going on. And you know what's interesting about that is that a lot of that really interesting breakthrough information that would like make people, like, you know, people be so excited to hear about this stuff. I mean, that's why we all watch sci-fi films, and we're obsessed with Iron Man and Marvel and Spider-Man, and things that are not real. Things are not like they're science fiction. If you were to find this information out, you would expect these people to love this stuff, but like these conversations are like, you know, not had, they're like only had within scientists, you know. So I love like finding that stuff out and being like, hey, how do we live forever? Like, can we do it? You know? So there's people trying to figure that out. So
I think you're in the perfect position to be in those conversations. I think everyone's thinking of you because you're obviously with like Neon Future and stuff, as you said, you're talking to lots of scientists. You're in that space. If someone's going to live forever, I'd put my money on you, for sure.
definitely, like I've thought about this a lot, and I really do believe that like this idea of Frankenstein, that idea of that is definitely something that you could potentially do, where you could upload your consciousness. So
Yeah.
there's that insurance policy. It's like if you die, you know,
It's not necessarily the end.
yeah. I mean, but just make sure you don't cremate your brain, you know, or I mean, well, if you go under the grave, after you die, you go in the ground, right? You're going to compost into the earth, you know, eventually, and then that's it. Like, there's no way for you to come back. You're not. There's no zombie effect, but if you do,
If you freeze your body or something,
yes,
do the Walt Disney.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I've already done that. I mean, not done. I've already didn't
You've
do it.
organized.
Yeah, I'm like set myself up. That's my insurance policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can trust me. Like outside of music, we can go into like some weird stuff.
Honest, we need a whole other hour to do this. Holy shit. There's so much to get into with you. How do you do everything you're doing at the level that you're doing it at? Do you have a really strict morning routine? Do you, you obviously don't party. I know that about you, and I think that's super important. But like, do you have your down days? Do you have your off days? Are you good at rest?
Yeah. Yesterday I was really lazy.
True, you
Like
did. You slammed some Ozark. I remember this. Yeah.
I like totally binged Ozark, but I started at like 12 in the morning, and then I kept watching it, which is why I literally just woke up right before this interview. So what time is it?
It's 9:30.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, when I'm on tour, I probably have like, when I'm at home, oh my God, my days are like, you wouldn't even believe it, like how slammed they are. Like I could somehow like put in like 8 Zooms and two different photo shoots and like a studio session in one day. It's like, yeah, it's incredible what you can cram in a day. But yeah, when I'm home, I'm slammed. When I'm on tour, I actually like, if it wasn't for jet lag, I'll probably sleep like amazingly, that's like and also on the digression note, that's probably one of like, I'm a big biohacker. Like
Yeah.
I just want to understand my body and, you know, try to figure out how to extend my life as much as I possibly can. And one thing I need to figure out is a sleep issue. I don't sleep very much. My brain cycles are like always just like, you know,
Mm.
like even when I know like when I'm dreaming, sometimes I'm like I don't even get enough sleep, but I can like feel myself, my brain trying to wake up. You know, when you're in a dream and you're like, wake up, like all this shit you gotta do. That's why I have to meditate, because I'm like, I'm just like, I have so many things that I want to, you know, I'm like always motivated to do something, you know, so I have to meditate. I have to like just, you know, do my breath work, meditate. If I have my ice bath here, I'll be jumping in my ice bath right now, you know.
You'll sleep when you're dead, Steve Aoki.
I still literally, I think I'm gonna get a tattoo. Like I have that tattooed on my neck, and I think
Yeah.
I'm gonna take out dead, and I'm gonna cross it out, but tired, because I really, that's like my next transformation.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say album title. Damn,
No,
damn.
no, no. My next is really respecting sleep.
Yeah,
I hate sleep. I used to hate sleep because it takes away from your activities of the world, to be active, like fucking going, you know, like now I'm like I'm respecting it. I'm like, I respect you. I'm gonna like embrace you more, but I still battle with that part, you know.
that's right. It's all a learning game. Steve Aoki, thank you so much for your time. Congrats on the new release, and I can't wait for the new album and to see you playing again.